blastmusic247.com. We're changing the industry one artist at a time.
Welcome back to another inspiring episode of Moments with Myra, the podcast where we have real conversations about growth, healing, and transformation. Today, we're diving into a powerful story of change, a story about choosing life, peace, and purpose over addiction. My guest, George Smith, is living proof that when you shift your mindset, you can change your entire life. George once struggled with drugs and alcohol, but through faith, focus, and determination, he turned it all around. Now he's using his journey to inspire others. George, welcome to Moments with Myra. I'm so glad that you're here. And this disclaimer, y'all, we are family, and I love him down. So let me just put that out there because I wanted to be 100% transparent. So now, for those who may not know your story, how would you describe who George Smith is today?
I guess the George Smith today is still learning who George Smith is, believe
Mm,
it or not. I think a lot of times when I was out there doing what I was doing and drinking and drugging and stuff, I was just another version of myself that I kind of portrayed, so to speak. I never really knew the real George Smith until I actually started kind of looking for him. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
and well, first I had to quit trying to be something or somebody else. They talk about it sometimes. So I got to quit playing God, even in my own life.
Yes.
And so now these days, I kind of let the God of my understanding lead me a little bit. Well, mostly if I can, but sometimes I still try to take over. You know
Well,
that, but
we're
I just prolong the
constant.
inevitable.
Yeah, we are a constant work in progress. So I definitely understand. But you have come so far, and I'm just so appreciative of you sitting down with me and sharing space and sharing your story. So now let's reminisce a little bit.
All
Let's go
right.
back for a moment. What was life like before you made the decision to walk away from drugs and alcohol?
Before then, well, I mean, I guess it started back when I was about 17. My mom passed away, and And as I said before, me and her were just kind of getting to where we needed to be,
Mhm.
because we had a rocky relationship up until, right before she passed away. And so like the weekend before she passed, we kind of got together and got to talking and hashed a lot of stuff out. And little did I know at the time that she knew that she might have been sick. It took me like probably 20, 30 years to find out that she knew through, some paperwork that got sent at the house here, like even here in High Point, you know. And I was like, well, maybe she might have known what was going on and she known she was sick and she was trying to make it right, and but I at the time I didn't know. And just all those unresolved issues, man, I thought I had more time,
Yeah.
and the guilt, the shame, the remorse that came along with, a lot of the stuff that I did. I ain't gonna say I was disrespectful, but I was a normal teenager,
Yeah.
a boy. You get what I'm saying? And so, we didn't get along a lot of times. Now, me and my father, we were always had been tight, and he had always kind of showed up, but and my mom had too. It's just I knew that I didn't know at the time that she was doing the best she could, the best she knew how.
Mm.
And she had her own bout with this thing. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know. And that was part of the reason why our relationship was so rocky is her journey, with the alcohol part of it. Yeah, she ain't never really deal with drugs and stuff like I did, but just the alcohol. And when she left here, I didn't even realize 39 was that young, because when it's your mama, everybody think your mama old. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until, I hit my 30s, like, wait a minute. 39 is still really, really young.
Yeah.
And so shoot, that I think at the time we were living with our father. And because you know, everybody, me, my sister and brother's relationship was real rocky with my mama. at the
Mhm.
time. And little did we know that she was sick. And little did we know that she was going through her own bout. We knew about the alcohol, but we didn't know how bad it would do. You know how most people like, well, just say no or just stop. And sometimes, man, we cross this tolerance point where it ain't really our choice no more sometimes. And we didn't know that as kids. They were my brother and sister was 16, I was 17, and by
Yeah.
this time we were with my dad, you know. And so when she passed away, me and my brother, my dad sent us to her house, back to our childhood home, and woo, that was yeah, we had a whole house to ourselves, and
Yeah.
16, 17-year-old, my dad still stayed in his house. So you kind of knew we were instantly popular, so to speak, because people knew that we had a whole house to ourselves and with no adult supervision. And so our house kind of became the hangout, so to speak. And I always knew that I would probably try to be like my dad. He had an alcohol thing too. And soon as I got the chance, to get out there, I jumped right out there, not knowing that I was gonna pass that tolerance point that people talk about also. And so I got out there, man, and just, first it started off with my friends and, hanging out, drinking, smoking weed, stuff like that and everything. I did try to I tried to be a salesman, so to speak, at one time, and I think the statute of limitations did ran out by now, but
Yeah, I think so. I think so. We're gonna say so. Look, we're not
yeah,
giving no specifics.
yeah, and so and then we got to hanging out, and a friend of mine that moved over to Lakeside, they had got their own place, and so I get over there to Lakeside and start hanging out, and next thing you know, I grew up in and around liquor house, going to liquor house with my dad and stuff like that. I used to drive him around when I was about 14, 15 years old. So we got over to Lakeside and hanging out and stuff like that, man. And shoot, liquor house to liquor house. And next thing you know, man, they started serving me. And I wasn't even old enough to buy alcohol then. But I started at a young age, man. Well, at that time, young. This was back in the, late 80s. And
Hmm.
so by that time, my mom didn't get to see me graduate in 1987. I barely did that. I don't know how I ended up walking across that stage, but that was something, well, that was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself.
Yeah.
But
Also, I think that was giving you a foreshadow of your future, trying to give you just a little peek into what
mm,
was possible when you were ready to move in that direction, So the
yeah,
seed was always planted. I just think that, like with anything else, you had to figure that out on your own and get there in your own time.
yeah.
Now, during that time, honey, how do you feel like it affected your mindset and your relationships or even your sense of self-worth? Or did you even care?
I had a little uh well, my self-esteem was kind of shot. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think a friend of mine came to my mom's funeral, and I think he was saying something to the effect where he kind of alluded to like she knew she was sick. And a lot of people don't know this, but while I was, we were staying with my dad, I used to come back to my mom's and hang out and stuff like that, on the weekends before she passed, and try to get this relationship and hang out with my friends on that side of town, that little thing and stuff like that. And I can remember, man, going home that last Sunday and saying, to myself, man, I'm thinking about going back home, permanently. And it seemed like, we all right. And I was wanting that, and my mom was she passed the next week, and
Wow.
that just kind of it hit me hard because I found out that she was supposed to go to the doctor. She had a problem. Well, I had the wrong information because of my age. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking she died of one thing, not knowing that she died of something else at the time. And I'm thinking that it could have been preventable. And so I wore a whole lot of guilt, remorse, thinking how unwanted, how alone my mama might have felt, living in that house by herself and all her kids over there with their daddy and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And it just it messed me up. And the only thing I could do to numb that pain and that guilt and that shame and remorse, man, was alcohol and drugs. I drank, because I think I set out to be like my dad
Yeah.
with the drinking and stuff like that. Not my mom, but because they were two different, drinkers, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I knew that when I had the chance, I was gonna drink and be like my daddy, because that was kind of like my idol, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I didn't know until I graduated, fooling around with this person, that person, and we ain't gonna go into all that, but and got introduced to drugs. It's hard drugs. A lot of people like, oh, you just smoke weed and just no. We went a little farther than that. And I think sometimes when people try to kind of get over on me or hustle me and stuff like that, and I look
Mm-hmm.
them dead in the eye, I'm like, I used to smoke crack, right? you know, they're like, for real? I'm like, yeah. So quit trying to hustle me, man.
Because I already know.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I heard a guy say, a speaker say one day, man, I still go to NA meetings, AA meetings, stuff like that, because I try to help other alcoholics and drug addicts, man, get to where they need to be. And I'm a firm believer that, it ain't just, it's many different ways to get to the God of your understanding.
Yes.
And it's a lot of different paths to get there. I mean, I think God created all these paths to be able to get to him. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I don't think it's just one straight path. You got to do this way and that's it. You know what I'm saying? And I know some people might differ, and that's fine and good. You're entitled to your own opinion and belief, but I believe that there's other paths to get to God, the God of your understanding, not the God of my mom, not the God of my dad, not the God of my grandma, not the God of my preacher, my bishop, pastor, and all that stuff, the God of my understanding, the one that I can be comfortable enough with to say, hey, I'm in trouble and I need your help, and and I guess that was the path I chose. I ended up going to treatment back in '96. And I
Now
had got
that's
to
what
the point where I had done.
I was going to ask you about that. Was there a
Yeah.
specific moment or something that happened that made you say, "Man, I got to stop this. I got to change my life"? Because was there ever a time where you thought that maybe the drugs and alcohol was going to kill you?
Yeah, several times. I had every intention in the world to stop every time I tried to stop. I just couldn't stay stopped. And I didn't know anything about alcoholism, drug addiction. Actually, I think, it wasn't until I got clean, man, that my dad said, yeah, we tried this once before. I got all them books and stuff. And I'm like, for real? That was some years ago at the VA or something like that. I
Yeah.
do distinctly, and I tell this story a lot of times, man, when I go to meetings, man, I can remember my mom going to a meeting when we were little kids, and it was a place in Winston. It's like in the basement of this big church or fellowship hall or something, and the people were giving out some chips, and everybody was clapping. I didn't know what it was for, but I
Mhm.
remember as a kid, that's how you could tell I was selfish and self-centered, even as a kid. I was like, shoot, I want one of them chips so people can clap for me. you know, 30 years later, I got a whole collection.
And what a blessing that is, though. What a blessing that is. Now, when you made the final decision that you were sick and tired of being sick and tired, were you afraid and unhopeful? What was your feelings about it since you had tried somewhat before that very, very last time that it quote unquote stuck? How were you feeling? Were you afraid to try to do it again, or what was your thought process?
My thought process, man, the whole time I was out there, several times I had every intention on stopping, and I tried to stop. And if anybody's ever been, in this thing before, you know how you put a certain amount of money in one pocket and put another amount in the other pocket. And I'm just gonna spend this right here.
Hmm.
That that, hey, I'm gonna give you this money. I don't care what I say. Don't
Don't.
give it to me. Yeah,
Mm.
you know what I mean? And I done been through all that, going in the bathroom and cutting the shower on, coming back out stinking, my socks still standing over in the corner, waiting on me to put them back on and all that. And I don't mind saying all that stuff. Now it is what it is. But, all the while I was out there, man, doing the stuff that I was doing, man, and dealing with the people that I was dealing with. At the time I was in a somewhat relationship. I say it's a hostage that I took, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Me and her kids it got along, and we could like hang out together, so to speak. And I I played gangster, played it, quite a few times out there in the streets of Winston-Salem. And I just like I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I remember I was at this guy's house and I was doing drugs and I had something to drink too. And I can remember this thought came through my mind. And it was more distinct than any other time where I done tried to stop and saying, man, I gotta do something about this. And it's like, man, you doing this and you don't even want to,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And and I was like, wow. And so I remember getting up from that guy's house and I was in Piedmont Circle. Now
Mm-hmm.
the backstory is now we know that people get paid on the first and the third back then. And so I don't know if I done told my uncle this, but I killed him off. I told my job that my uncle died. I ain't gonna lie. That's how sick I was. And I knew they were gonna probably give me 3 days of bereavement, the first, second, and the third. And the third fell on a Friday, which was payday. So in my mind,
It
I done
was
had this plan orchestrated, you know what I'm saying? That I'm getting ready to get high and drink. It's gonna be on for about 3, 4 days, and I'm gonna run into the weekend and a paycheck. This how I mind, this how this disease will tell us, you know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
And people ask, what's your sobriety date? Now I said, now the first you get that money, you deal with whoever you got to deal with to get high. Then the second you still got, a little something left from the first, if you're dealing with the right people. Now I didn't get a check, but I knew people who did. Then the
Mm-hmm.
third, another set of checks come out for other people, and then I get paid on the third, and shoot, guess what my clean date is? The fourth. I couldn't take it. So I got this bright idea on Friday, May the 3rd, 1996. I was walking through Piedmont Circle and I left that guy's house. And the thought is, man, I'm doing this and I don't even want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think of no other way. I didn't think about treatment. I didn't think about rehab. I tried to stop drinking and doing drugs. Well, I tried to stop doing drugs and drinking, and I tried to stop doing drugs and still drink, you know. But it didn't last long. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't trying to change nothing. I was trying to stop and stay stopped. And for a person of my caliber, that didn't work. And so I remember, man, walking through the path over there by on the other side of the recreation center in Piedmont Circle, going to Miss Mac's store to the phone. And I
Mm-hmm.
got this bright idea. I say, y'all gonna have this, I'm going to jail. And I went straight through that path and all my utensils and everything, I threw them down in those bushes and everything. And you know how we make up our mind for the last time.
Yeah.
And so I went to Miss Mac's store and I had like I had a 40 ounce, a slit small liquor bull about half full, and it stopped working. The drugs had stopped working. The alcohol had stopped working. And I said, man, I'm going to jail. I figured that's the only way I'm going to stop. Somebody got to make me stop because I can't do it on my own. That's when I realized I can't. And
Mm-hmm.
walking through that path, man, I did something that a lot of people just like me do. God, please help me. Them 4 words right there, God, please help me. Now I will admit, now before, I didn't ask God for one more.
Yeah.
I promise God, if I get one more, I'm gonna quit tomorrow, you know. And so I marched right on over to that store, determined to go to jail. And I called 911 4, 5 times. I couldn't even go to jail right. I ain't lying. I was like, man, my name was George Smith, and I've been drinking and I've been drugging, and I'm tired. The first time I ever really admitted it, and meant that I meant it, and I said it out loud. All these other times I knew it deep down, and other people knew it before I did. You know what I mean? But this the first time, and I was like, man, I thought I had some warrants. It was a couple times I got stopped for driving without license and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And I remember asking them one time in court, how much time you give somebody with driving without license? And I think I was reaching out then and just didn't know it.
Didn't realize.
And then I got tired of going to court. So I figured, well, I turned myself in that night. They couldn't find nothing. I'm like, really? I'm like, well, try George S. Smith Jr. Couldn't find nothing. George S. Smith the second. George S. Smith the third. Now, I done been arrested a few times. You know what I'm saying? I ain't ashamed to put that out there. Yeah, I ain't had no felonies, but I did a couple of carrying concealed weapons, a couple of other little charges here and there and the other, and we ain't gonna go into all that. But and I just figured I had a warrant, and if I went to jail long enough, man, maybe I wouldn't want the drugs no more when I got out. And I'm gonna tell you something. I really wasn't planning on stopping drinking. I just wanted to stop
But
doing drugs.
mhm.
And so I didn't call them people about 4 or 5, literally called 911 4 or 5 times, and they couldn't find it. They couldn't find my name nowhere, and they said they was gonna send an officer out to talk to me. And I said, well, you tell them I got this 40 ounce, about half full of Slit Small Liquor Bull. Tell him to be looking for it because it's coming through his windshield. Yep. I was dead serious. I had tried it before in Lakeside for $5. Some guy bet me $5 I wouldn't do it. We had a security guard that rode around Lakeside. If I could ever find him, you know, which he probably ain't here no more. It was an older guy, man. I'd make amends to him. Tell him, hey, I'm sorry. The bottle didn't go through the windshield, in Lakeside. It just bounced off and kept going. But I would. And I told the 911 people, and they was like, no, no, sir, you can admit yourself into treatment. And that, like when the cartoons come on and that light bulb, bing,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, never thought about that. Never crossed my mind. I had to do everything the hard way. You know what I mean?
Now, when you were talking about when you were out and about and you didn't think about treatment, how do you feel? Did you feel supported at all, or did you try to reach out to like family or anybody to get the support, or did you feel like you was just out there kind of just doing your own thing and just going for what you know?
I was going for what I know. I
Mm,
honestly, my pride and my ego wouldn't let me reach out.
mm,
Remember, I didn't admit that I had a problem unless it was somebody on the phone that I never seen before and never seen me, and that was a 911 operator. And that's
mm,
when they talk about I get sick and tired of being sick and tired,
mm.
and I wanted to do something different. I just didn't know what or how, you know, and I
And
was too embarrassed or too ashamed to even ask anybody.
it's so funny that you say that because I think about us growing up and being around each other and even the lakeside days and all of that. And I had no clue. I knew
Yeah.
you drank,
Mm.
but
Oh, everybody knew that.
but as far as everything else, I honestly had absolutely no clue
Yeah.
whatsoever until you were on the other side. And then when you were on
Mm-hmm.
the other side of things, with your healing and with, being sober and stuff, then I was kind of like, what? Like when you was like, well, Tootie and this and that. And I was like, huh? And it was almost like, were we living the same life? Like it was crazy. But that's just proof that those that you love, you can be around them all the time, hanging out,
Mm-hmm.
doing everything that we used to do, and still be clueless.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, man. I've been in the background of a whole lot of stuff that's done went down in a lot of different places. But remember, I was telling you early on in the conversation, I ain't never really desired to be popular or famous.
Yeah,
Because I mean, shoot, people will snitch on them, you know. So I've
absolutely.
always,
Fly
yeah,
below the radar.
I've always been in the background of a lot of different stuff. I ain't gonna say a puppeteer, but like, I put it to you this way: I know a lot of people that know a lot of people, but not a lot of people know me.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying? I could tell you what you was doing at a certain place at a certain time, a certain day, or something like that, and tell you who else was there. But
Mm.
you'll never really remember that I was there. You know, they talk about what's that show on Showtime or whatever. What they call the guy Ghost.
Yes.
I was a real ghost. I was hiding in plain sight. I was always in plain sight, but
Mhm.
never really noticeable.
Mm.
And I tell people a lot of times, being underestimated and underrated, that's a superpower of
Mm.
mine. You know what I'm saying? I'm the guy that nobody never thinks about. You get what I'm saying? When it come to like, okay, then somebody did this or did that. Like, well, no, it wasn't George. Or,
Yeah.
back then my name was Papa Smurf. No, Smurf. Nah, ain't nobody thought about no Smurf, man. You know, so you know, I I was so ashamed at how I got to where I was. No, I wasn't telling nobody. My daddy knew. You know what I'm saying? He didn't know how bad it was because we was kind of in the same boat a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But his story, his story.
Yeah.
And I can remember one time we was behind on the rent or something like that, and he called his daddy to try to help, and he put it all on me. He said, "Yeah, son, I threw you up under the bus." I'm like, "That's all right, daddy. It's all right." You know what I'm saying? Did we get the money? You know what I mean? And
Now,
what's crazy,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
it's been times me and dad will be sitting up there over there in Lakeside, man, just sitting in the dark, no lights on, and we just sitting in the dark, man, just drinking and talking. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I love more about him. He always told me the truth, regardless of what it was.
Yes.
Whatever his truth was or his version of it, he always did that. And that's what I love most about him. I
Samuel
said
was
when I
always
decided, yeah, my whole career out there drinking and drugging, it was always something in the back of my mind. This ain't me.
yeah.
This ain't me. And it was like, my mom was a professional person. My dad was with the ambulance service for all those years. And you
Mm.
know what I mean? And I'm just sitting up here like, this ain't me. This ain't how I was raised. This is just something I turned into, somebody I turned into. This ain't little, little skinny George from Easton, And people hear be like, yeah, I used to hear about you over in Lakeside. I used to hear about you over in Happy Hill Gardens. I'm like, for real? you know, but it is what it is. But
Yeah.
like I said, I was the person nobody never thought about, and I just, like I said, when that time came, I said, man, y'all gonna have this. And what's crazy, the funny story, when I said something about throwing that bottle through the windshield of that cop car, not too long after that, the cop, the 911 lady said, no, no, sir, you can admit yourself under treatment. And that time I was 26 years old. And it's like I didn't live. I've lived a whole two lives. A life of like growing up in this home, with parents that worked and made sure their kids were straight and did the best they could, the best they knew how, to like Happy Hill Gardens and like people knowing who I am in Happy Hill Gardens, and that ain't a good thing. You know what I'm saying? People
Mm.
knowing exactly who Smurf is in Lakeside, that ain't a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Especially to the person that ain't never desired to be famous or
Yeah.
popular. And all that stuff ran through my head. This ain't me. And so when the 911 lady said you can admit yourself under treatment, about that time the cop pulled up. And I didn't have to do it. I left that 40 ounce, bought a half full of Slit Small Liquor Bull sitting right there on the stoop. And I got in the cop car. And the cop took me to Charter.
Mm-hmm.
Right around them, you remember them commercials. If you don't get help at Charter,
Get help
please get
somewhere.
help somewhere.
Yep.
And what they really meant was if you don't have $1,800 down, get help somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
but not here. You know, and so that cop, he stayed with me, man. The cop, he took me to mental health because I think back then you had to get into treatment, through mental health.
Yeah.
And they'll send you out to ARC and stuff like that. And that cop sat there, man. And I'm gonna tell you when it really set in. Something told me, George, go weigh yourself. It was a scale over there at mental health while we was waiting to see if they was gonna have a bed for me. And mind you, I ain't never done this before. I ain't
Mm-hmm.
never been to treatment or rehab or none of that stuff. And I went and I weighed about 145 pounds. And I think the last time I weighed 145 pounds, I might have been 12, 13 years old, something like that. I didn't even know how bad I looked. Now I can remember a couple of times I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize who was looking back. And I know you don't know this, but like, some of us were like, I would make silly faces like, in the mirror to make sure it was me looking back because I didn't recognize that guy.
Wow.
And it really hit. And I broke down right there in mental health. And that cop sat there until they found a bed for me at Arkham. And they sent me out there to Arkham, man. And I went, and I ain't gonna say I did everything right. But every time they had a class, I was sitting up front, all the way to the right, that corner seat to the front. I always sat up there and I tried to write down, because I got a little ADHD. So
Mm-hmm.
I tried to write down everything that counselor was saying, the teacher was saying, and stuff like that, to try to figure it out. Because I swear to God, it seemed like he'd been following me around for the last 10, 15 years. And me and my roommate would go back to the room and we'd be talking about stuff. And the next thing, they'd be talking about it the next day in class, what we was talking about. So me being, paranoid like I was, I'm thinking they got cameras and stuff in the room. But I just, all in all, man, the journey from there to where I am now, man, that spanned 29 years. I ain't done everything right. Um, I done took a couple of hostages. I tried to do some things. I mean, a lot of wrong things I did was with good intentions, so to speak.
Yeah.
And for some people, that ain't no excuse, but for some people, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
But that's real. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
real. And now that you're on the other side of things, how do you handle days now when they're tough without turning back to some of your old habits or the old things? Do you still sometimes have cravings even after all of this time? How do you handle that if they come
You
up?
know what? I tell people a lot of times, even around the first of the month, I still get this little, hey, I need to sell somebody something. You know what I'm saying? The hustler in me still be in me, like it's the first. And like it's something inside of me, like, so, you know what I mean? But then there's something inside of me that's like, shoot, what you gonna do? I still get that. As far as the alcohol stuff, they didn't a lot of times, man, I don't really think about it as much as I used to. Believe
Okay.
it or not, the actual craving for even for drugs a lot of times don't last for about 7 seconds.
Okay.
That's what's crazy. And it seemed like it's forever, but the actual, like, it's our mind. It's the obsession.
Mm,
When the obsession kicks in, that's what makes it last. But the actual physical craving doesn't last but about 7 seconds.
wow.
Everything else is our thinking. And so when I got here, man, it wasn't about just stopping the drinking and the drugging, because like I said, I wasn't ready to stop drinking. Now the drugs you could have had, you know. If anything, I'd have probably went back to drinking, and then, the drugs gonna say, hey, come on, bro. You didn't came this far,
Hmm.
So if I don't drink, I might not do no dope,
Gotcha. So
and
if you could go back and talk to your younger self, Papa Smurf himself, the version of you that was out there and caught up in addiction, what would you say to him now?
honestly, we
Mhm.
actually had I was in a meeting not too long ago, and we that was one of the subjects of the meeting. And people were surprised when I said, well, I probably wouldn't change too much of anything. And the reason being, I was selfish, self-centered, and I was full of myself back then. Not overconfident or anything, but I just wanted what I wanted when I wanted it as a young child. And I probably wouldn't have learned it. I'm gonna put it to, can I cuss?
Mhm.
I would have been an asshole.
Mhm.
Period, point blank. I know my mouth can be reckless. I know that sometimes and most of my family on both sides are kind of direct. You know, you know
Oh
that.
yeah,
If it comes up, it's coming out.
yeah,
Yeah. Now, how it comes out, we can only determine how that's going to work. But,
that part.
so the only thing that I probably regret is not having more time with my mom. And I think I wrote this in a post in Facebook, man. I didn't realize it took me like 30 years to realize it. I thought I had more time,
Yeah.
you know. And but as far as the journey, it's some things I regret. I mean, I never had biological kids,
Mhm.
but I've raised about 15 kids over the years.
Mhm.
Somebody else's kids, you know. And that's one thing. And then I was talking to my daughter, one of my oldest daughters, matter of fact. I was talking to her this morning. I said, you said you she said, you always say that. I said, you probably would have hated my ass, because of what I took myself through. It ain't like what happened to me. We say that a lot of times, what I took myself through, and that's my choice to say that, you
Yeah.
know. What I took myself through, man, and stuff. I mean, I know I pissed some people off, and I'm kind of glad I didn't have biological kids, but shoot, matter of fact, I'm picking one up. One of the kids that I helped raise in my addiction. He coming home from prison next week,
Wow.
you know. And that ain't something that I'm proud of. I got 3 or 4 kids, man, that's done been in prison. Most of my nephews on my mama's side, one, two, three of them done been to prison.
Mhm.
And it's like, George, what they say about you? Because I was supposed to be the male figure in their life.
Mhm.
Yeah, their daddies was they daddies. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I'm Uncle George.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm the one that's supposed to have some daggone sense, man. And like I said, in a sense, I feel like I failed them, but then at the same time, after a certain age, it's some choices that you make for yourself. I've been clean for 29 years now.
Yeah.
So something was done about halfway decent.
Yeah. You got to give yourself some grace. You got to give
Yeah,
yourself some grace.
exactly. So I don't feel so bad or so guilty. All I do is try to make sure that I'm available when and if they ever make a phone call. I got one son in a treatment program up in Mount Airy right now.
Mm.
He came out of federal prison after about probably I think he did about 12 years. And he had to go back for a little while a couple times because of his addiction. And we
Mhm.
sitting up in church together, when I went to pick him up a few weeks ago, and I'm like, and both of us like, who would have thought?
What a blessing. Yes.
Him calling me and texting me, on Messenger and stuff like that. Like, hey, what you think about this and what you think? He's 46 years old.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? My son is coming home next week. It's 50. I got kids that I helped raise is 6 years younger than me and 10 years younger than me.
Mhm.
And they looked to me back then for what they needed. And I provided, but I wasn't there emotionally like I should have been. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I know we have our own journey, you know what I'm saying? But I'm glad that it happened the way that it did because now, you know, when you're working with kids, and I worked with kids before, when you're working with kids a lot of times, man, it's hard to get a kid to see where they headed.
Mhm.
But a grown man, you might have a better chance to see where they've already been, to help them see where they've already been, and maybe, just maybe, they'll do something different. But sometimes our pride and our ego a lot of times, and that I want what I want when I want it, or I think I got more time.
Yeah.
Sometimes that'll get the best of us.
And I think, especially that I think I got more time because,
Yeah.
even with Aunt Queenie and then your dad and my dad, the similar situations with their passing, all of us thinking that we had
Hmm.
more time together.
Yep.
So now, if for someone listening right now who's struggling to change, what message would you give them?
Give yourself a break.
Yes.
You deserve it. It don't matter what you did, what you said, what you done. They say even in the Bible, the wages of sin is death.
Mm,
And for some reason, God still got us around here.
mhm.
You know, He gave me an opportunity to do something different. I tried my best to do what with it, you know, the best I could. And I'm still trying. Because like I said, I fall short all the time. I've been falling short for 29 years. But that don't necessarily mean that everything that I did and said or tried to work on was unsuccessful. I
Mm,
have had some success, not financially, more spiritually than anything. Like
mhm.
and my personal relationships, they mean a lot more to me now. And sometimes people don't want to have the conversation that I want to have, when we trying to get down to the nitty-gritty of the
Yeah,
how and the why, or the
yeah.
causes and conditions of how we got to the position that we got to. You know what I mean?
It's a
I
hard
know that a lot of times, and yeah, in order to see where you're going, you got to kind of see where you done already been.
That's right.
That's that's one of the reasons why cars got a rear view mirror.
That's right.
You got to see what's behind you in order to see where you're going. See what your next move gonna be. You
So,
know,
for anybody that will want to follow your journey or maybe reach out to you for support or information, is there a way that they can contact you? Is it just through Facebook, or what are you doing to be a resource to anybody in the community? Young man, young woman, whoever that might be going through trying times, and they hear your story and want to connect with you.
man, you can find me at an NA meeting, an AA meeting. I'll give you my number. I mean, even at work, I think most people at my job got an agency phone and a cell phone. My cars have my personal cell phone on them, you know. And so when I do phlebotomy work, and so I get to go into jail and at-risk neighborhoods where I can find people like me. You get
Mm-hmm,
what I'm saying? And
mm-hmm.
I get paid to do it. That's what's crazy. I get paid to go and try to help people. You know what I'm saying? Through drawing their blood for HIV testing, HIV, STD testing, or going in the hood, setting up
Yeah.
a table. I know how to go in the hood. I know how to conduct myself when I'm in the hood. You know
Mm-hmm,
what I'm saying? At the little hood store, the little hood grocery store, something like that. They might be slinging over here, but I'm over here trying to hand out some condoms. We respect each other, and we get done what we need to get done while we out there. Ain't no judgment or nothing like that, because everybody got their own journey.
that's
And,
right.
and maybe the example that I set, or that just being out there or being in that jail saying, hey, bro, you can do this. I've seen where a lot of people, man, that come out of that jail, man, that I go into, and they
Mm-hmm,
come out and they go to rehab, and then they go to, like halfway houses, and I see them in meetings and stuff like that. You talking about somebody that's proud of them? I tell you one quick story. It was a guy I was doing outreach, and it was a guy that was behind this building up under a tractor trailer, and him and his dog stayed up under the tractor trailer,
mm-hmm.
up under it, not in it, but up under it. And they had these big things of insulation across the side so it wouldn't get cold for him and the dog. And I remember going out doing some outreach one time, and I was doing some testing, and I tested the guy. And so I remember to bring him back. I was bringing his results back to him, and I knocked on a little insulation and stuff like it was a door. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? You hear the dog growl and stuff like that. And people think it's a funny story, but I mean, it is what it is. And the guy said he had the nerve to tell me, "Come back when I get up." And I looked at, I'm like, this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to respect it, and I went on about my business. You know what I'm saying? I did get him his results and stuff like that. But one day I was coming out of jail about a year later, and I was coming out from the top, and this guy looked real familiar in the lobby. He was coming to visit somebody or something like that. I was like, dang, he looked real familiar. And what's crazy, the guy that used uh stand up under the truck used to be a truck driver.
Wow.
Now I come out of jail one day, and man, this guy is standing in the lobby. And I was like, hey, what's up, man? And he looked familiar, but I've been going into jail for 20 years. And
Yeah.
I've been working at, with substance abusers for 29. So everybody looked familiar. You know what I mean? And so, and I think when we locked eyes, I knew he was familiar and I looked familiar to him. He said, hey, you remember me? I said, I remember your face, because I can't tell people where I know him from, because, HIPAA. Ain't get ready to. And
Yeah.
so I didn't know. I knew him, but I didn't know where from. He said, I was the guy that was standing up under that truck over there on South Main. I was like, for real? How you doing, man? Everything all right? He said, yeah. He said, now I'm driving trucks now.
Wow.
And I went to tears going out the door. because it might not have been what I said or anything, but just the fact that I came back,
That's
you know what
right.
I'm saying, and checked on him to
Did
make sure
that's
he was good. He said, yeah, he didn't know where I worked at or anything. He's just like, yeah, you know, I got another story. Now that the
I was
cop,
wondering about that. Yes.
I think, let me see, that cop stayed there until I got into treatment. And I can't remember his name. But that cop sat there until I got a room till they found the bed at Arca. And like I said, he rolled me around to make sure I got somewhere. And so when I think I had 4 years clean. Some said, find this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, and a matter of fact, one of my counselors at Arca ended up speaking for me at my anniversary. And I found a cop. And what's crazy, I called the police department. Now, who calls the police department? That's how sick I am. Yeah, matter of fact, we need to talk to you anyway. No, it wasn't. And I was like, hey, on the night of May the 3rd, this cop, he picked me up. Can you tell me the name of the cop? And I said, is it a way to get in touch with him? He said, no, we can't get you. And I ain't think about that, people target cops and stuff like that. But back then they had phone books, and this guy was in the phone book.
Wow.
And tell me that wasn't nothing but God.
That's just the way he does it.
The guy's name was in the phone book, and I called him. I said, hey man, you might not remember me. And I told him, I said, on the night of May the 3rd, man, you picked me up and you took me to treatment. He said, well, I don't remember. I have to check the reports and da 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 da. And I said, I want to invite you to my anniversary. It's going to be such and such a day at this time, and this is where it's going to be. And the guy showed up.
Ah,
He showed up, and he said, man, it took me a minute to figure out who it was. And he said, when I saw your face, I realized, yep, it was you. When he came down there to the meeting, man, as he sat in the meeting, and at the end of the meeting, they give you a medallion or a chip for, however many years that you've been clean or sober. And I got that 4-year medallion, and I presented it to him.
mm.
Yeah. And I literally just got finished talking about him last week, because in May, if I make it, it'll be 30 years.
Oh no, it's not if when you make it. It'll be
Yeah,
30.
but if I live to see it, all that.
Yeah.
And I said, I think I need to try to start working. He's probably retired because it had been 30 years, and he had been on the force for a little while even then, and see if he's still around. If not, I mean, I'll try to do something else. But if it is, I'm gonna see if I can get him there for my 30-year anniversary.
I
As
think
he did say that at my 4-year anniversary. He said, man, when he seen me and found out what it was all about, it kind of changed the way that he looked at us when they see us and approach us on the street and stuff like
mhm,
that. You know what I mean? And if I can do that with a cop, just one cop, and I'm saying like a white cop, I can
mhm.
say that. Well, it's too late. I done said it now, but you know,
But that's real.
yeah. If you can change the way that they think about, addiction or something like that, or whatever, guess what, man? That's one better cop. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying?
And then
That's
it
one
spreads
cop
from
that you
there.
might not have to worry about, out here on the street by yourself at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning trying to
Mhm.
figure it out. Looking for somewhere to go because you ain't got nowhere to go. That kind of thing. So it just when he said a few things, man, and it touched everybody's heart, and the fact that I did that, it hit everybody. It wasn't a dry in the place. That wasn't my intention. I was just like, I didn't think it was gonna have that effect, but yeah. And I thought about that, I was like, well, my 30th coming up in May. Hopefully, and I might see if I can find a guy, see if he's still around.
Well, let me know and I'll work with you together to see what we can find because that would be a wonderful way to celebrate your milestone of 30 years and just
Mm-hmm.
everything that you're doing. And I think that this is a good place for us to start wrapping up because I have to say that I'm truly, truly thankful for you sharing space with me today. You know, like I
Mm.
said at the beginning of our conversation, I love you.
I
And,
love you back, baby.
you know, that's something that no matter what you go through, no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, that love, family bond is always there. I'm thankful for God for second chances, second, third, fourth, fifth chances.
I know that's right.
I'm glad that you are doing what you're doing in the community. God makes no mistakes. You know what I mean? And I think that you coming on today and even sharing your story the way you do with the community, your transparency is what is the biggest help for people that's going through it. Because like you said, you know, these some of these people that are in addiction still have jobs, still have all of these things that they're juggling, you know, and having to deal with their addiction behind the scenes. So if one person can see this interview that we've done and say, hey, you know, he's made a point. Hey, I just need to give myself grace. Then I say that our job has been done. So I thank you
Mm.
so much for sharing space with me today. So, so very much. And
It's
I
no
look forward
problem.
to us having conversations again soon.
I know that's right. I hope I ain't hijacked the whole thing. I hope you got all the questions you needed to answer.
Oh, no, you are fine. And if you guys are inspired by today's conversation, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, transformation begins when you believe you deserve better. Give
Mm.
yourself some grace. I'm Myra, and this has been another empowering moment on Moments with Myra. Until next time, stay strong, stay encouraged, and keep becoming the best version of you. Have a great day.
Sing on everything.
We gon' get this started. We don't have time to waste. Heard you was killing them in these streets. You done caught a case. You causing major traffic. Girl, you a faulty habit. Girl, with that deadly weapon, I'ma handle that with no discretion. See, I like to keep things perky. You like to keep me working. Shout out to Houston, love to the Carolinas, but we gon' keep this Jersey. Nights be late, mornings be early. Baby, I'ma keep you in garbage. That's right, you heard me. But I really gotta see if you worthy. Industry really not letting me in. Hit to Jamaica, fly all of my kin. Jumping at the jet, through with the beam. Creative AF, I won't say it again. Look me directly in my eyes. You better not tell, not one lie. Get in position, we bout to make this a new tradition. I done heard everything you was vision. Adding to what you missing, girl. Whipping in the kitchen, we bout to mix it, mix it, mix it. You really bout this life, let's fix it. Don't play with it, baby, let's get it. Let me see you, dear. Show me something real, like I went on back there. It's jumping out the gym, oh yeah. Elevated, I'ma let you demonstrate it. Move like you levitated, hella infatuated. Industry really not letting me in. Hit to Jamaica, fly all of my kin. Jumping at the jet, through with the beam. Creative AF, I won't say it again. Look me directly in my eyes. You better not tell, not one lie. So what are we doing today? You got that thing all in my face. I wanna make a power play. Serious work underlay. This joint be good, good. I'ma put you through it, do it. Let's get it understood. And it's still your sense, so do it. Let me see you, dear. Show me something real, like I went on back there. It's jumping out the gym, oh yeah. Elevated, I'ma let you demonstrate it. Move like you levitated, hella infatuated. Industry really not letting me in. Hit to Jamaica, fly all of my kin. Jumping at the jet, through with the beam. Creative AF, I won't say it again. Look me directly in my eyes. You better not tell, not one lie.